There are two types of high performers: those who seem to always work hard and not get recognized for what they're doing, and those who seem to be always working on the right thing with the right people at the right time. What's the difference? I'm sure you've seen this too, at least in consulting and in big tech. It seems like capabilities don't directly translate into success. The most capable people seem to always open themselves up for being punished for their brilliance because you finish everything on time, you do them really well, so your boss says, hey, you've got time, let me give you some more things. And so you spend a little bit more time, you stay a little later, and you continue to crush these tasks. And guess what? Your boss says, great job, let me give you some more. And before you know it, you're underpaid, you are overworked, all the while having more pressure put on you compared to your peers, and you have less room to fail because of this reputation that you've built up. And even when performance reviews come around, you don't always get rewarded for doing all this extra work because, again, it's a risk calculation for managers. So you get a pat on the back and say, great job, you did so well, and next round will definitely promote you. And the real problem isn't even this underpaid, overworked situation, which is already bad enough, but the second order consequences from that is you go into this vicious cycle where you start to build resentment, you start to build self-doubt, and because you're crunched for time, you've got so much on your plate, what happens is people start to say, hey, maybe this person is not so consistent and they've got an attitude, not really a team player. And before you know it, you start to lose that identity you've built for yourself as a star player. And once it becomes an identity issue, then so much more resentment and self-doubt starts to build. Maybe, I don't deserve that promotion. And before you know it, you're in that funk and you can't get out of, I need people to see me as a star, but I've given myself so much to do that I can't be a star. But there is also this small group of high performers who don't get stuck in this trap. What do they do differently? We'll talk about the 3 frameworks they use to manage their capabilities and their outcomes. Number 1 is choose what you won't do, because you're as good as your choices, not your capabilities. Sam Corcus talks about this with Tim Ferriss. He gives an example of an exercise where you take all your to-dos for the next week and you schedule it into your calendar based on how much time you think realistically it's going to take. And most people realize they can't fit all the to-dos into that one list, because while a list of to-dos is infinite, you just add on to the bottom of the list. Time where the tasks have to fit into is finite. We only have 24 hours a day. I talked about it in my video here on making time, but the other thing that we have to take into consideration is planning fallacy. It's a cognitive bias that says we underestimate how much something is going to take, usually by 55% on average. This means even if you fit all the to-dos in 1 week, actually those tasks will likely take 1.5 weeks. Knowing this, you have a choice. Do you overcommit yourself, knowing that there's not enough time and way too many things to do? And when the deadline rolls around, you have to do an average job of it and then, self-sabotage your reputation for being someone who executes well and then, go into that self-doubt vicious cycle? Or do you prioritize and say no to the things that you could do, maybe you should do, but in the end, you're not going to do them because you are going to be hyper-focused? And this brings the question, what do you focus on? And the Eisenhower Matrix is the perfect place to start. You have urgency and importance on the 2 axes, and every time you get a new project, a new task, you have to ask yourself through the lens of the Eisenhower Matrix, do I do it? Do I decide on it? Do I delegate it? Or do I delete it? And of course, you get to decide what urgency and importance mean. Because let's say you're looking for that promotion, urgency is urgent if it happens before the performance consideration, and if not, then it's not so urgent. And importance could be translated to impact, measured by the KPIs that your team cares about. So in this way, you'll know what you shouldn't focus on in order to achieve that very specific goal. And there's a joke that all new features roll around near promotion cycles. I have not validated this, so don't quote me on this. But people follow incentives. So we can use the Eisenhower Matrix to help us prioritize. The second framework is about thinking in asymmetric bets. You're as good as your upside allows you to be. And before I dive into this, thank you for today's sponsor, Scrintl. They are a note-taking and a visualizing app. And as you know, I use Obsidian. I love Obsidian, but it's got a few quirks. So I use it together with Scrintl. As you know, visualizing on Obsidian, we can now use Canvas. I even made a video about this. But the problem is we can't embed or publish these Canvas yet. And so I use it together with Scrinto, where it also uses Markdown files. I can upload and download them. And this way I can collaborate with other people, showing them the connections I'm making, getting their thoughts on what they think about my notes without just dumping them with a wall of text. If you're interested, they have a free option that will come out later. And if you want to be an early adopter, it's $5 a month and you get 20% off with my code Vicky20. Now back to asymmetric bets. We already said no to a bunch of things, but we'll have a few yeses, especially if at the beginning it's hard to say no to too many things at once. It comes with practice. So with all of the yeses, we not only need to prioritize that again, but we need to think in bets. This is the difference between working hard and working smart. An asymmetric bet is where the potential upside, the reward, is significantly greater than the potential downside, which is the risk. In other words, this means the reward to risk ratio is skewed towards rewards. So you're rigging the game, ethically, of course, so you can focus your time and attention. And the added advantage of being a high performer is that you usually have choice. Given a few options, you can articulate which project you want to work on because you have built this reputation for someone who is able to execute. So use that and hone in on the asymmetric bets. How do you tell if something is an asymmetric bet or not? You can start with the simple SWOT analysis. I talked about this in this video here, but in a nutshell, it means strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. And you want to assess that based on your goal. In our situation, it means number one, for strength, how will this project leverage my strength? And this will be your competitive advantage. Second, how does this project expose my weakness? So you want to know your zone of genius and the edges of it and see if you can mitigate that. Then third, opportunity. If things go really well, what is my best case scenario? This is where you find your upside. And for threat is in the worst case scenario, what is my downside? And here's how we're going to figure out whether the upside significantly outweighs the downside. And as a result, is it an asymmetric bet for me? Let me give you an example. I recently started posting on LinkedIn, and that was my asymmetric bet. So let me walk you through the goal and my SWOT analysis. The goal for me was to build out the B2B part of the school that I'm building, the School of Human Intellect, and trying to attract the right type of leaders in L&D and just in companies in general to work with us. So number one, strength. How does posting on LinkedIn leverage my strength? For me, content quantity and quality is a strength of mine. I have a database of all the content I've posted here on YouTube, on my Substack. I have also a sense of what people usually respond to. And I've got resilience, which I've built over time of creating content because I really enjoy it and I know it's not such an easy path. So to me, this is a competitive advantage. Now two, how does posting on LinkedIn expose my weaknesses? This one is definitely, I don't really enjoy being on social media that's not very evergreen. So how do I mitigate it? One, I think I just have to accept I'm not going to always have the latest trend and be able to post on it immediately. I probably have to do some sort of content calendar where I at least get the seasonal trends and probably just hire someone to help me cover that eventually. Three, the upside. What's the best case scenario? For me, it's achieving my goal, right? The content is reaching the right people, leaders in L&D and just in companies in general who care about human intellect in their people. They care about their people. And the worst case scenario and my downside is really, I guess I waste some time. But even then, for me, writing content is about distilling my tacit and explicit knowledge, something I talk about here. It's not even a waste of time. So to me, the downside is really minimal and the upside is very significant. So it's a no-brainer for me. I want to do this asymmetric bet. Find me on LinkedIn. All right, number three is about improving how you communicate. Big theme on this channel, and you're as good as how you communicate it. You have the things you won't do, you have the bets that you're making and prioritizing, then it's how do you talk about it? Frustrating as this visibility stuff is in a corporate setting, it's important to also just articulate for ourselves, what am I doing? What are the interesting things I'm learning? So not even for other people, we have to at least do it for ourselves. I hear a lot of people saying it's not fair, that sometimes people who can't back up what they say still get the limelight. And I agree. For high performers, there's two things to think about. One is long-term. Long-term, it will show someone who does their job and someone who doesn't do their job. So because your energy and your time is limited, that's why you are doing step 2 and step 1, which is trying to protect your time and energy and focus on the right things so that you can continue to execute and you can hone your craft. Then in the short term, it's all you have to do is talk about it, right? Other people talk about it even when their work is not so great. What holds you back from talking about it? And sometimes it's just a framework. So the one I'll share here is actually a Japanese one called horenso. It's actually a wordplay in Japanese. It sounds like spinach, but it's short for hokoku, renraku, and sodan, which roughly translates into acronyms for milestone, updates, and bottlenecks. The great thing about this framework is we also use it in consulting, where you work in a team, a very collaborative nature, but also each individual wants to shine, and this framework allows you to do that. So first, ho, which is milestones. This is project management 101, right? You have to work towards your milestones, and when they happen, you have to proactively communicate it to your manager, to stakeholders, that this milestone happened. It was successful. We got here. This is where we are. And most people actually just stop here. When they reach the goal, they tell people about it, and that's the end of it. But there are 2 more things you have to do within this framework. The second one is about updates. Before you get to that milestone, you have to do a lot of things. And updates means you proactively share what is it that you're doing, what insights are you finding, what roadblocks are you facing, and of course, your plan to resolve those roadblocks. This way, stakeholders know exactly where you are, what you're doing, how they fit into your project, if there's anything they need to do, if there's anything they can help with. Also, as a team, it's great to share insights so that other people can build on it. So it's not just about, hey, me. It's also a very collaborative effort, and when you find something interesting, you don't want that buried somewhere until you reach that milestone. By the way, this is how you can preemptively manage micromanager. Not all the time. I know some of them can be very extreme, but usually micromanagement, it just comes from anxiety of not knowing what's happening and not having control over what's happening. So if you give updates, and we did this in consulting, on Fridays, we always sent an end of week update. Here's where we are. Here's where my things have had. These are the wins. These are the things I'm stuck. This is the plan. Here are the next steps. And others on the team will see, oh, okay, this is how I fit in. This person is almost done, so I have to get prepared for something else. Then it's number 3, bottlenecks. And we have to proactively seek advice when we face them, especially to bosses and mentors whose job is to help you. And this is how you're going to bring people into your orbit to get them care about your project, about your own success and the project's success. This way, you can also normalize bottlenecks. It's not a hidden surprise that, oh, actually this thing didn't go well, I'm going to hide it. But rather, it's you have a chance to, let's say, talk to your manager about, here's where I'm stuck. This is the context of how I got there. Maybe it's not your fault. And when they understand that, they'll know how to help you with their experience, and you learn along the way. Hopefully you have a supportive boss or teammates, mentors who will see you through and willingly share their experience with you to help you get through it and make it a great bonding experience where you solve problems together. Everyone is over-indexing on hard skills, and as we've seen with AI, all this chat GPT functions that are growing insanely by the week, by the day, we have to also think about the human intellect that we have. What high performers do is invest their time and energy into the human bits that machines can't quite figure out. This is where tacit knowledge comes in. I talk about it more in this video here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!